it's hard enough to teach nowadays. It has its challenges. Uh, but now with the political climate, that battle has found its way into our schools. The culture battles, they found their way into our schools, and a lot of times the schools are just they're caught in the middle, and it's just hard to understand what's the right thing to do here. Here we have a situation that speaks to that. We have a student who's suspended for saying illegal aliens in class gets cash and an apology from the school. Wow, I want to go back to that. I missed this story where this student was suspended for saying illegal aliens in class. I'm curious, just what's the rationale? How many days was the student suspended? Because that term is it's in many of the laws that are on the books now. Um, it's a term that many people don't like. I understand that, and so for the most part, we've kind of shifted to a different term. But I mean that term is in many laws that are still on the book. And so I think you'd have many who would argue that the school moved a little bit too quickly in making the decision to suspend that student. School district in North Carolina has been ordered to admit their mistake, issue an apology, fork over $20,000 and more after they were sued for suspending a 16-year-old student who used the term illegal aliens. The settlement was approved on Tuesday in the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of North Carolina following a year-long battle after a 16-year-old student and his parents sued Davidson County Schools for the mischaracterization of racial bias and violation of the student's First Amendment rights. Although the parties initially moved to seal the revised settlement agreement, they have since withdrawn any request to seal any version of their settlement, said the judge. Now, let's see. The 16-year-old student was suspended in April last year after using the term illegal aliens during an English class discussion. So looks like they're having a class discussion, possibly even a debate. Do you mean here we go. Here's our quote. Looks like, do you mean space aliens or illegal aliens? Do you mean space aliens or illegal aliens who need green cards? The student asks. Okay, so little provocative in this environment, but that's a term that it's in many of our laws, but people are but there's a lot of people who are offended by that term. And I think the student knew that. He's trying to make a point. The student was later suspended for 3 days and marks denoting racially insensitive behavior were added to his permanent record. Mmm. Racially insensitive behavior. That's just as a principal, I'm looking at that and I don't know. I think in a lot of ways, the students have to lead the way and show us how to navigate this space. Um, I, w- I mean, hindsight is 2020, but I would say that's you're taking a leap. Racially insensitive behavior. I get the comment. The context is it's provocative. Do you mean space aliens or illegal aliens? It's a little disruptive. It's provocative. Trying to make a point. I don't know what led up to it or what came after it, but the student is trying to make a point, and again, that term that's on the books and many of our laws, and yes, a lot of people they don't like it. They find it to be insensitive, but you know that's a legal term to use. And so to suspend him for 3 days, racially insensitive behavior, I think that's a huge mistake. That's a huge mistake. What would I have done? At least a conversation. Yeah, at the very least, a conversation with the student. It's like, where are you going with this? Um, just make sure that you're using it correctly, and you're making your point, um, and that you're sensitive to the fact that there are people out there who have an issue, um, with that term, and perhaps a class discussion, that's a great place to have that back and forth. I don't know. Let me just say I don't know. I don't think, to my mind doesn't immediately go to, we need to suspend this student. Like this, I don't see that. Now again, hindsight, I just don't see that we have an offense that's worthy of a suspension. Yeah, you're being a wise guy. You're being. I get it. I understand. But I mean, we're supposed to be preparing them for the real world, as we say, for college, to have these discussions. Like, I don't think I would have suspended him, and I want to hear from you. What do you think should have happened? Uh, do you think he should have been suspended, or do you agree with me that he should not have been suspended? Do you agree with the courts say he should not have been suspended? Of course, the president heard about this, yada, yada, yada. He's behind them. In addition to the public apology required in the settlement, McGee's school must correct its permanent record so it no longer denotes racially insensitive, and acknowledge the inappropriate response to this matter by a former member. Interesting. Former member. See, I think that's the principal. I think it's quite possible that the assistant principal was not for suspending the kid, but the principal said no, we're going to suspend them. And this is that awkward area where we, as we're working in schools, we have to remember, like, it's not our job to overstep our bounds. Like, we have certain boundaries. Of course, in our personal life, there's ways that we want the world to be, but that it's just not that. We, of course, we would love, if you lean left, you're thinking, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. The president, I can't stand the guy. But on the other side, you have people. Okay, yeah, I like this. I like this. I can live with this. I like who we have as president. So that's the world that we live, and we have to find a way to share this country that we have, and it's a wonderful country. And so we just have to be mindful of our biases. We have to be mindful of that. And so I think it's interesting to note the interesting response to this matter by a former member. Maybe someone lost their job, or they were forced out, or maybe they elected to leave. However, per Schroeder's order, the settlement does not amount to an admission of liability of wrongdoing, um, including an apology to Christian and a payout 20,000 is indicative of how far lost many educators have become in the wake of the previous administration's identity politics. Here we go. No more, Perry continued. The mission of American education is rooted in the viewpoint of diversity. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you see where we're going there, but I just find this is compelling. This is really compelling. What has happened here, and I want to hear from you. What do you think? Do you think the student should have been suspended for using the term illegal alien, and is it racially insensitive? Now remember, like, this is going on this student's permanent record. They're going to be suspended from school. And, definitely, as the saying goes, facts don't care about your feelings. Like, is it the right thing to do to suspend this student for using this term? If it's within the context of what they're doing, they're having a class discussion. Or do you agree with me? This student should. It looks like they're having a class discussion. They should not have been suspended.